Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 10 of our Hockey Hotline podcast here. I'm Great Park Ice manager Dave Walker here with the rest of our hockey managers, Dean Wilson, John Meinberger, Vince Vias. And today's episode, we got a special guest, Matt Blanchart, commissioner of our Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League, here to answer a few of our questions and, like normal guests, give some information and provide some clarity on maybe some of the questions that you've had about the league and things that how it's operated and why they do things they do. So we hope this episode provides a lot of clarity and a lot of information for questions that you may have about our league. So Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Matty, there we go.
Thank you, gentlemen. A pleasure to be here. Pleasure with all the other big names that preceded me. I'm happy to
Yeah. So I guess first thing I just want to hit on, I know the league started in 2008. One team. Now looking at this past season, it ended with, I think it was 50 teams. Obviously, it's not 50 different schools. There's a lot of schools that have multiple teams. But looking just at that growth over the number of years, obviously the main goal behind high school hockey when it started is to really give kids an opportunity to play that either A, might not have had the chance to play at a club level. I'm just giving another path for these kids to really be part of the game of hockey. And I think it's done a great job. But can you look back at it from where it started to where it is now and ever fathom that it would ever have gotten to this big?
And just to correct you, it's 51 teams, by the way.
But yeah, there you go. Let's be clear.
Come on, Walks, you should know that.
The short answer is no, and I haven't been asked that question in a long time since the number has gotten to the 40s and the 50s. You get into it, and when it first started in 2008 with one team, it was obviously 100 times different because back in 2008 it was difficult to get games, period, for a high school team, let alone think about adding a second team or moving on. But now as you go to 40 and 50 teams, it's almost a full year-round process. So the answer is no. I don't think it's ever we've never fathomed to getting that big that fast. But we're happy it did. If kids have a path to play, a different path to play, that's great. I mean, that was really one of the intentions when the league first started, is to keep kids local from migrating east to play high school hockey, stop playing hockey altogether, hopping over to lacrosse or another sport, and keep them playing. And that was one of the initial goals of the high school hockey league program back in 2008.
Yeah, I know a big thing. We had Z on the last podcast. He was saying that he wished it was back, he was playing when he was kind of growing up too, before he left, right? And that's how I feel the same way. If high school was around, that would have been awesome. So it's great to see that it's grown so much.
Yeah, when we have kids that are players, at this point they're adults coaching or coming back, and we hear that. If I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I could buy a cup of coffee. So it's it's good in that regard, and I think it makes, if you didn't experience it, you want to be part of it in some method. So yeah. I think it helps us with people wanting to be involved with the league.
If we could take a step back, when did you get started in the league, and how did that all come about?
In full disclosure, my son was on the first 2008 Jay Serra team.
Okay, just want to with Kyle Gonzalez.
With Kyle Gonzalez, yeah.
Yeah, we just had him on last time with Zealand, so that's a good segue.
Okay. Yeah, Gonzo played defense and then went up to Washington, I believe, to play after that. But yeah, so I helped start that program with another parent, managed that Jay Serra team for 4 years until my son graduated, and at that point it was up to 8 teams, I think, the league, and Art and I would always make the sales pitches to the new schools to come on board. So my son was graduating. I was going to be dialed out of hockey for a while. I got a daughter that's 9 years younger than he, so I was going to be done. And Art came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to run this league?" And back then it was 8 teams. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
Yeah, well, I'm in.
Yeah, I can make a schedule for 8 teams. That's easy. And
how's that changed?
Yeah, 8 teams became 20 and 20 became 30, and here we are today. So that's really how I got involved in Art. Just, it's one of those things. I growing up back east, played hockey too, just like everybody else. And you like, I'm a rink rat. I want to be at the rink and I like watching hockey. So yeah.
I know it's a little off subject. You said you played hockey back east. So what was your position? What kind of player were you? Big body, physical?
I was a defenseman. I grew up in Connecticut and played defense. Came out here in the early 80s and played for the South Coast Sabres, and
Very cool.
when they were still around and out of the old Costa Mesa rink. And went off to play at the University of Arizona, and life became life, and he had to move on and get a real job. So it was.
Don't tell us that.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a great work. Yeah. But I was a stay-at-home defenseman. Back in the day, that was the deal. I mean, Bobby Orr. Growing up back east in Connecticut, Bobby Orr was the man, and
love it.
50 years ago, a couple of weeks ago, was Bobby's big day.
That's true.
Right on. So Matt, we talk about constant expansion over the years. Like every year it's growing. We see teams obviously covering San Diego County, Orange County, all the way up to Northern California, even into Nevada. With that expansion, what kind of hurdles and challenges do you face as a league?
That's a good question. I would ice time. Ice time was the biggest one up until when the Great Park was built, and to believe it or not, it still is a big challenge for us.
Yeah.
And we as a league, I've always tried to schedule games that are convenient for the schools around their schedules and the coaches' schedule. So we try to accommodate that as best we can. So the simple fact of scheduling is the biggest hurdle. When we had 8 teams, we had a couple hours of ice, and the ice grew proportionally with the number of teams, but we always seem to be squeezed at the end of the year. So that is the biggest hurdle. We want to try to keep our student athletes as much of a student as we possibly can, to make it as convenient for them as they can when varsity plays, JV plays behind a varsity, and then the 2 teams play next to each other. We try to do that as best we can. But scheduling is by far the biggest hurdle for us.
Do you feel that creating the divisions, right? So JV has grown in such a big scope that we've had to split up divisions, to create whatever the names were. They've changed each year. Yeah. That's a tough part as well. Trying to find where everyone fits in, and then having the Division II teams. And I think the parity part of it is because kids come in each year, and it becomes different as time goes on. So
that's a benefit. I think that's a benefit to our league in that we have an advisory board that we listen to twice a year that has really good input. That's everything from coaches to our media people to the Ducks sponsorship group, and we listen to them and try to make the best adjustments we can each year without radically changing the format. And splitting the divisions is a challenge every year. I don't want to say it's the most difficult thing. I think we have very good coaches in our league that know the level of play where they should be, so they select the right division to be in. And if they get it wrong, they will let us know in every week with an email, and we look at it and say, okay, maybe you're in the wrong division, and it takes this whole schedule change and whatnot. But we try to make the most of equal divisions as we can. Not everybody in every division can go undefeated, unfortunately.
That's true. There's winners and losers, unfortunately.
Matt, for somebody that really doesn't know high school, like you get kids at our rink, and John gets kids at his rink that want to play high school, what would you say the difference between Division I and all the other divisions are? Obviously, we know JVs development.
Division. So varsity is set into the 3 divisions: Division I, II, and III. And this past season was our first year where we simply split those divisions on talent. So Division I, if we had 33 varsity teams last year, Division I had 10 and those 10 were theoretically the top teams. The next Division II was middle, and Division III was the lowest of the varsity division. So it's not by any means any rocket science, but in years past, it's been a little bit more complicated, but we felt that it's best just to divide the divisions purely on talent. And as last year played out, one Division I team had to get moved down to Division II.
Right, but the years past, when I helped coach that Newport Mesa team way back in the day, wasn't Division I just a true school?
Yeah, so back in the early days, Division and Division I was all pure. Division II was all combined at the top level, meaning they would go on to the national tournament. And that was followed by that followed the USA Hockey protocol. USA Hockey calls Division I pure and Division II combined or non-pure, and we followed that as best we could for a number of years until Division II became so small. There was 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 teams in Division II, which we just didn't felt was proper for a division. We had to make a change. So now it's all Division I and they're the highest, and every team in that division is eligible for nationals.
So, you quickly talked about just the kind of the national level and kind of following parameters that USA Hockey sets up. Obviously, we all know that Santa Margarita has won, a few national championships. When we had CJ on the he made sure to remind us of that.
Clarify how many.
Clarify.
Definitely
We
did
said
that.
2, and he said it's actually 3. But how important, is that from, obviously that's a Division I level, the highest level. But even though it's a varsity, can you speak of how important that is for even the Division II, III, and JV to see teams in your own league that are having success on a national level?
Well, I think it's super critical. I think it's critical for the student athletes to feel they play in a competitive league. I think it's important for the parents that are paying the bill to realize, okay, this isn't, a rec league, and there's a level above that my son or daughter can play in high school throughout their high school career. So, and to compete on that level and be on the news, the local news and the USA Hockey news, and have that spotlight shined on Southern California hockey and Santa Margarita in particular is fantastic, which, I think, I'm not 16 or 17 anymore, but if you're that age, you want the spotlight on you, enjoy it. You want to have recognition for your school. You want to have the recognition for the league and your staff and your coaches and your fellow teammates. So I think that's a big deal when they won those 3 national tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked about expansion and the challenges that comes with the expansion. Can you name maybe some of the things that you've done, in a kind of administrative side of things to stay up to date with the constant expansion? Obviously, one person with 50 teams, it's going to be hard. So what, as a league, done to kind of help with that growth?
Yeah, well, you're right. We unfortunately have a staff now that kind of helps us with the league, and that runs everywhere from making sure we have a medic at every game. We have a media staff that coordinates our social media and keeps our name out there and keeps everybody involved. We have a deputy commissioner that kind of does keeps track a lot of me and making sure that we get things done. And and Vicky Egger is our deputy commissioner. She does a great job in pushing things around, making sure things get done. But yeah, there's a staff of 4 or 5 people that market our league, organize our league, and run our league every week. We, for everything from a director of officials in Arcatano to Vicky, and yeah, it's a handful every year to handle that group, because with 50 teams, there's lots of demand. Everybody wants their own certain schedule and window of games and where they're going to play those games, and it gets tricky. So that with their help, it makes it a little easier with 50 teams. When we get to 100, I don't know what we're going to do. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention John Mainberger as a vital cog to our.
Oh my goodness.
Who's that? Never heard of him.
Yeah, what the heck is that guy?
Dude, close your eyes.
Yeah, because he's always there at the rink helping everybody out. Actually, he does a very good job. He runs. We have tried to have somebody at every game that we can, and we can't do that. But John's either at Anaheim or keeping an eye on Lakewood remotely. So John is super critical to us.
Hey, I'll take it. Hey, that's on camera. I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, for future scheduling, make sure I get Only a Great Park, okay?
I didn't quite hear you, Vinny. You're breaking up.
Yeah, talk to John.
To talk about stuff on the national level, Matt, maybe we can kind of talk about Team California. I know that, that's comprised of high school hockey players, going on once again, kind of getting some visibility on the national level, and maybe you can just expand on that and how it was formed and maybe, the benefits of that opportunity.
Yeah, Team California has an interesting history. There used to be something called the Chicago Showcase back in the day that was set for juniors and high school juniors and seniors that you played in front of scouts, and each state submitted a team, and Team California was played in the Chicago Showcase a number of years. And it was a USA Hockey event, and it kind of fell off the radar for a while, and then they reintroduced it as the America's Showcase, which is the same premise, strictly geared to high school juniors and seniors. and they go, at the time, it restarted up in Pittsburgh for 5 years and played in Pittsburgh for 5 years. And Team California put one team in the very first year, and they probably had 13 kids added last minute. Didn't do so well, but got the experience of, okay, now I see what this is about. And the following year, we put obviously a Team California in, and they ended up going 4-0 and beating their teams by a combined 64-4. That was probably the best Team California we've ever had.
You see Walker perk up right there. You didn't know that stats.
Yeah, I mean that had some really good players on it, and the way the current structure was that day, you didn't advance we were in C pool, the bottom pool didn't advance out, and that team could have won the whole thing. But there's Team Illinois, there's Team North Dakota, there's Team Massachusetts. All the big states are there.
Big teams.
It's strictly for scouts. It's a great event. It's 5 days at the end of the year. Tryouts are usually sometime between the high school season, and Team California is coached by coaches from the league, and we have practices, we have some scrimmage games. It's a very high level of hockey. I mean, Team Illinois, Team Wisconsin are big and fast, and it's a really good eye opener for our high school juniors and seniors that have ambition to go someplace else when they see what the other talent is in the other states.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's more of a eye opener for them, but it's a lot rewarding. It's rewarding for me as a manager of that team and the coaches of that team to get the scouts to interact with the players. We are lucky enough that pretty much in the last 4 years, every player on Team California has been recruited by a scout when they were there. So it goes to show the level of our league as it grows. I think we get better each year.
Yeah, we talk about it in a lot of our podcasts, just, what California's impact and how players kind of get the opportunity now to be looked at essentially. And, that just verifies that, a team from California can go out there and get the opportunity to talk to scouts and then see where that may take them. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, the Team California is a great experience. I mean, a couple of years ago, we made it to the championship game. It was in Pittsburgh. We beat Team Pittsburgh in the semifinals and had to take on Team Illinois and got up to a 1-0 start and ended up losing 5-1. But but it was a great game. It was a great game. It was fun. It's a great event. So
absolutely,
if there are high school juniors and seniors out there, I would encourage them to take it up and try out for it.
Matt, one of the big things throughout the year is always the All-Star kind of night where we have the senior game, the varsity game, and the JV game. How is that changed and grown over the years? Because I know that's, as a coach in the league, dealing with players, that's something that they all get excited for. It's something they all look forward to. It's become something that is very, thought after for players. They really want to work towards that, getting to that night. And how, from a league, has that grown over the years?
That has grown into an event that has its own planning schedule. It used to be, the first one was in 2012, and we just kind of picked 35 kids to make the All-Star team because that's how many kids were probably in the league back then. I don't remember, but we played, and it was just one game. We didn't know really what was going on back then. So it's evolved, and as you said, as more kids want to be involved with it, we've had to add games. So we've separated out the varsity and the JV, and we added the senior game a couple of years ago. So it's a big event for us. We coordinate a lot with the Ducks themselves. We try to emulate the stuff they do at a Ducks game, all the lights and introductions. And this past season, we actually had the Ducks PA announcer at the game doing the PA announcing. So there's a lot of planning that goes into that, and it's, to me, one of the best nights of the season, next to the championship days. I think the championship
I agree.
is the best day, but the All-Star game is second to that. And we realize that the kids do really they all want to make the All-Star team. So it's a lot of pressure on us to make sure that there is a process and procedure to get the players selected. And we lean on the coaches a lot for their feedback and their interaction as far as players go. So there's a whole process of selecting All-Stars, nominating All-Stars, divvying up the teams. So it's a great event. I mean, they get jerseys,
I could agree.
socks, they get all the swag. So everybody wants to make it. And from a league perspective, our biggest concern is that we want to make sure it's done right and nobody gets, what they feel is cheated, and so there's a lot of checks in place that we have internally that make sure that we get everything right. But once they make it to the team, it's a great event. I mean,
what I like to add is just the fact that, in addition to the great park, like you said, Matt, adding all the effects that go with it, the arena, and all the family and friends and schoolmates with the big screen and stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's been a great event from the start of it, but, with the addition to the facility and the feel that it gets, I mean, it really just fires kids up, coaches and the Anaheim Ducks, side of stuff. So we're super excited about that event and where it's going.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Everything from the varsity, the varsity and the senior guys get a patch for their Letterman jacket if they have one.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's, it's a lot of high school specific stuff there, but they get the names on their locker room stalls, and it is a great event. It's to me part of the fun of that night is actually the skills competition that they do between the periods. The skater stuff, and we used to do the fastest skater is an annual event, so that we have that every time, and we have kind of tweak up the other one. We've had hardest shot for a while. We had accuracy shooting, fitting four corners in the net. This year we mixed it up with accuracy shooting across the length of the ice, which I thought was kind of fun and we'll probably end up doing that for a couple of years. But
and to add to the shooting part, it's always funny when we're out there, being part of the league, and when we talk to the kids and they're really cocky going into it, and they realize when they're on center stage and they're trying to hit 4 targets, next thing you know, they go 1 for 4, and they're like, "Hey man, what happened? What happened to that 6 shot you had?" It's like, "Oh, it was there, just not in a pinch."
Give me another chance. I can do it better.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I got a question, Matt.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the growth of the league, did you ever see, schools out of state, kind of building the interest to join the Southern California High School Hockey League for the Ducks?
Well, it's a funny question because for this year we have our first out-of-state school program join the league.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Faith Lutheran from Las Vegas is going to be entering this league with a varsity and a JV team. So they're jumping all
more trips to Vegas. Shucks.
Yeah.
If people want to go, they're more than welcome to go.
Yeah, I remember we played them in Vegas tournament, and they're a pretty good team. They're very well skilled team.
Yeah, the varsity team's pretty good. They were big. I remember them being pretty big and pretty skilled. They're actually coached by ex-NHL goalie Pokey Reddick.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So but they're joining with those 2 teams, so they'll be the first out-of-state team. Now, early on when we were growing at a pretty good clip, the Arizona schools were looking at it coming over, but our advice to them was to start your own league, go to the Coyotes and kind of mirror this type of thing, just like the Kings did. And they did, and the Coyotes bought off on it, and their league is growing exponentially now as well. So if you go to Phoenix or look on their website, they have, I'm going to say, at least 30 teams in Phoenix playing now.
That's awesome. Is there ever thought of like cross-state tournaments, kind of like top 3 teams play against each other in each league type of thing? That'd be kind of cool to think about. I'm not too sure if you guys already talk about that stuff, but
we think about it every year. We try to execute it every year. The problem is coordinating all those teams.
Yeah.
Are the other Vegas teams sticking around, Matt? The ones that we had last season?
Yeah. I think schools don't have to declare for us for another 2 months, so that we've got some time. But I think from all indications, we're returning pretty much every team. I just got an email from one of the schools that's going to go from 2 teams to 3 teams. So, we're going to have another 4 or 5 team bump this coming season.
Awesome.
You brought up talking about different leagues, and you talked about the Kings League. Is there ever, and I'm sure you're going to say, it's like you said, you think about it and talk about it all the time, but is there ever a thought or talk about putting, games against each league since we're so close to each other?
Yeah. Yes. Again, it's a matter of functionality and scheduling. The way our season now is, since we as a league have compressed our schedule, it's extremely difficult to do. The current CAHA format for high school playoffs is the 200% rule.
Yeah.
So you got, and that may not be the best situation for high school, which, we look to change hopefully in the next couple of years, where there'll be more crossover games allowed between teams of different levels and representation at the Caja State Tournament, so it's not always ADHSA. Don't get me wrong, I love that all ADHSHL teams are in the state tournament. But I think some other representation from the Sharks and the Kings League would be great at those events if they have qualifying teams.
Hey, Matt, to take a step back, you know, we use this podcast as an informational for our listeners and stuff like that. We get a lot of questions on how do people get involved in high school hockey. I know that some, it's a direct path. Their actual school is already in the league, so they kind of see the name that correlates with the program. But what about if they don't have a school that as a program? What is the best way to approach them looking into being a part of the league?
Yeah, if your school doesn't have a school, we have what we call district teams, which are set by boundaries. Typically, they mirror the school districts themselves. And on the league website is adhshl.com. On that main drop down is a school list section. And you would go to that school list, find your high school that you are attending, and it will tell you what district team you would play for. And you would go to a different tab that is called contact list, school contact list, find the contact for that school and simply send them an email saying you're interested in playing high school hockey for that district or that team. And you should be off and running. They should be getting in contact with you because they're always looking for players. The more players, the better it can become. So
Absolutely.
You know, it's not, you know, we don't have a tryout.
Yeah.
Like a AAA or AA level of program in high school for our league, there is no tryout. If you attend the school that has a team, you obviously play for that. If you find your district team, you find your district team and you play for them. You know, each team in Edison or Beckman may have tryouts to make the varsity team or the JV team, but that's irrelevant to the league.
But either way, Walker wants you.
Yeah.
And the other thing they probably add to all that is, you know, high school hockey is co-ed, right? So, you know, females could also play within the league. So there's
co-ed. We've had a lot of
great females. Yeah,
female athletes come through. It's great. I mean,
yeah.
The other thing I would add is if anybody has any questions, my email's on the website. So just simply send me an email. I mean, we'll direct you. I'll be happy to direct you in the right way.
Absolutely, and you can email the majority of the hockey managers as well.
Playing hockey.
Yep.
So obviously right now with this COVID-19, there's a lot of the hockey's been affected from a club standpoint, grassroots, adult leagues, public sessions. How has it affected, the operation of the high school league, if at all?
Matt's involved in Caja, so he has some of that stuff going around, right?
Yeah, that's a big question these days. Get a lot of emails about that. So at this point, our season is still on schedule to start on time.
Yeah,
which will be October 2nd. We plan as opening day. The most recent Caja dates for high school registration and tryouts or registration is August 28th. So you can't officially register on our website until August 28th and get Cindy Frazier, who does all the rostering, can't roster the teams until after that. But in my communications with her, we should be good to go for October. We're actually looking at hosting a preseason tournament for the first time this year.
That's cool.
At the varsity level to make sure, as we talked about earlier, everybody's in the right division, 1, 2, or 3.
Perfect.
Yeah, not required for the teams, but if they want to participate in a preseason tournament, it's going to be the middle of September. So, but our season is, I don't know how the seating is going to be or how that's going to, obviously that's the magic question. Yeah. But as far as games go, we are scheduled to start October 2nd, All-Star game end of January, and championships 21st and 28th of February. So, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I mean, and same amount of games. We're still having the Vegas showcase. So, you know, nothing on our end has changed yet.
I know you've been a part of the league for a little bit of time. Before we jump into, sorry, Dave, you got something real quick?
No.
I was just going to say, what's maybe one like memorable time? It doesn't have to be, it could be a game and maybe when your son has scored a goal, but nonetheless, like throughout the league's history that you kind of just look back and be like, man, that's pretty cool. And I'm glad I was a part of that.
Oh boy, that's a good question. Leave it to Mainberger to think of the one question I've never been asked before. I would say, there have been some memorable games, and I would say just 3 or 4 of the top games. When my son was at J. Sarah, they played Santa Margarita. Santa Margarita tied it with a second left. That was a phenomenal game. Santa Margarita played Olu 0-0 during regulation, and Olu won 1-0 in overtime.
Yeah.
It was Jacob Furry that stole a pass on a breakaway. I mean, it was just, the stands are packed. When there's lots of fans in the crowd and it's a big rivalry game, whether it's Olu and Santa Margarita or one of those games, I mean, to me, that's an event that's memorable. I mean, I go back to a year and a half ago when Irvine won the Division 3 or 2 championship, and they had a whole student section going.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was great. That was a memorable one. And the other memorable one I would bring up was early on when Servite won the JV. It was in the JV championship game at Honda Center. Servite, all boys school, got all the boys there. The team was led out by the bagpipe guy.
That's cool.
Tunnel. It was, leading them onto the bench. And then all the guys are pushing on the plexiglass at the Honda Center. 45 before I thought the thing was going to break. I'm like, holy man.
Speaking of Servite, they had a year. Would anyone expected them to win their respective division coming in with the start that they had?
This past year, no way.
No way, huh?
And Marshall and I'm like, man, you got to, how did a 9 seed, good for them, go all the way to the championship, which I think is great. It was
great story.
But you know what though? Like that's one of the great things with the high school hockey.
Yeah.
Is that you can get on a wave, right? And it's one game. You lose, you're done. When you move on. I mean, that's the great thing about it. You can build that excitement like real quick.
On the flip side, we thought Walker's team was going to take the top spot. What happened, Walks?
Yeah. With the varsity? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's for another podcast.
Sorry. Bad question.
Yeah, but our playoff format of single game elimination mirrors that of CIF, which is every other high school sport. So,
yeah.
It's
exciting.
Yeah, it really is. It's a whole different environment. And when the playoffs come around, it's as you said, David, the level elevates dramatically, quickly.
Yeah, and if this, if all of a sudden this COVID-19 didn't hit, we may be sitting here with 4 national titles, because I know Orange Lutheran varsity team they had a very strong chance at winning that. They had a very strong and deep team. So we could be talking about 4 national championships and not 3. So, it's too bad for the league, and obviously even worse for the players that were involved to lose that opportunity. But I guess this all of it shows how strong the league
I was going to say, nonetheless, you see how exciting it is to see that there are that talent coming out of California, like we've always talked about and all other stuff. So, yeah, like you said, it's unfortunate for Olu and the kids, but nonetheless, I mean, they should be proud of the team that they had and, as far as they could have taken it. So,
yeah. Well, Olu didn't even win the league championship.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
What a year, Maddie. What a year.
What a year.
Yeah.
Couple more months, Mainberg. You're right back at it.
All right. Well, about that time again, I'd say thank you. Thanks, Matt, for jumping on here and answering a few of our questions.
Thank you so much.
A lot of great information that I know our viewers and listeners will enjoy and get something out of. But in normal fashion, we always end our podcast with the same question to our guests. You get to go golfing, pick your perfect foursome. Obviously, you're part of that foursome. So pick 3 people, 3 athletes, dead or alive, to go golfing with.
Bobby Orr, as I mentioned earlier. Jesse Owens would be 1, and a 4th athlete, huh?
Dead or alive. He doesn't have to be hockey.
I got hockey. I got Reggie Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Our picks are getting better as the podcast.
I was just gonna say,
seriously.
Walks. Like when you started that off with that question, Walks came up with this early on, and it just kind of evolved. And it's really cool to see how that one singular question just is formed in so many different ways. So it's been pretty cool.
Process, yeah, the thought process behind it, and seeing you get to kind of an idea of what, I guess athletes that maybe people followed or driven by or whatnot. It's pretty cool to see how different people and they're the people that they want to spend 9 hours on a golf course.
Hours? What walks? That's with you, bud. You got to go finding golf balls.
Well, that's because I hit the ball east and west, not north and south.
Safari, baby.
Guys, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Matt, again, thanks for taking a little bit of
so
time
much
out here and answering a few questions. And I know we all look forward to getting back into the rink and hoping that this hockey season, the high school hockey season, takes off when it should be. Because I know there's a lot of schools, a lot of kids that are anxious to get the season started. So thanks again.
Yeah, man. I just want to say thanks for doing all the stuff that you do, man. There's a lot that goes into it. So I know all these other coaches that are sitting on they coach for their teams. If you're not around, they're not making the bucks. So
yeah. So I appreciate that. Appreciate everything. And guys, viewers, listeners, thanks for tuning in to episode 10 here of our Hockey Hotline podcast. Until next week, stay safe.
Woo!